Fire alone can save our clan. This prophecy is typically seen as referring to Firestar's victory over the various forces of evil that threatened ThunderClan throughout the original Warrior Cats series. However, this prophecy not only refers to the clan's literal physical survival, but to their moral and ethical survival as well. Into the Wild's prologue is phenomenal on so many levels, the most impressive of which I've never even seen discussed. It's not something that can be fully appreciated though without later context. Now, if you want to use multiple narrative perspectives in your writing, you gotta make it count. The change in style should impact your work in a way that's impossible to convey otherwise. This is exactly what Erin Hunter does in the prologue of Into the Wild. In a one-time view of their perspective, the reader observes Blue Star and Spotted Leaf lamenting the state of ThunderClan. There aren't enough warriors to protect themselves, they say, and there's a depressingly small crop of young cats this year to train. They're losing their hunting grounds to their stronger rivals, and their ability to survive this crisis is in question. They're running out of time to turn things around and now growing desperate as a result. Then, in Firepaw's very first interaction with the clan cat, he, and by extension the reader, are told that ShadowClan is the darkest and most nefarious band of cats around. The issue is painted very black and white. ThunderClan is good and ShadowClan is bad. But you know, it isn't actually that simple, and in fact the entire resolution of the story of Into the Wild is built around subverting that initial assumption. ShadowClan is originally seen by the characters and the reader as a homogeneous hive of evil and savagery. However, in the end we learn that they're not all that different fundamentally from the cats of ThunderClan. Many of the ShadowClan cats care about the well-being of their friends and family and are willing to subvert the rule of law and the leaders in their own clan in order to do what's best for them. They recognize cruel and unjust acts such as the killing of young apprentices in training by their leader Brokenstar, and channel this and other dissatisfactions to eventually help the heroes defeat the evil from within their clan. More on that in a future video. ShadowClan is an objectively bad neighbor, to put it nicely. But why is that? What were the conditions that led to this paradigm? By placing them in the role of seemingly irreconcilable antagonists, Erin Hunter not only is able to subtly explore the mechanisms which breed such horrible factions within the context of a young adult novel, but they also display a disturbing parallel between the seemingly good ThunderClan and the evil ShadowClan. As it stands, the two of them are in different places on the same road to moral destruction. ShadowClan is already there, while ThunderClan is on the verge of following that same dark path. One of my favorite themes to study in history and explore in stories is the way in which ordinary people become the tools and victims of tyranny. Moreover, it's interesting how seemingly normal people can themselves turn out to be evil tyrants. Now, stick with me on this because I'm going to dive into a little bit of psychology here, but afterwards, whether or not you've read the book Into the Wild, what I'm going to say is definitely going to blow your mind. Maybe. The too long didn't read is that Brokenstar is Hitler, but I don't mean this as a slight against his character. In fact, he's one of the best written Hitlers I've ever come across. Back when I was interested in writing fiction, one of the first rules I came across is not to make the villains Nazis. The word Nazi here was used in the sense that you don't want villains that are just evil for the sake of being evil and just do heinous, horrible acts for no reason. The idea is you want to make them complex or something, but that advice has always kind of bothered me. Contrary to what this rule seems to be based on, Nazis weren't solely paragons of evil. They weren't the earthly embodiment of the devil himself. Heck, I'd argue the character of a Nazi is arguably the most interesting, complex, and nuanced one you can make. What drives ordinary people to commit the most heinous acts imaginable? Well, it all starts at the top, I suppose. To turn your average Joe into a cold-blooded killer, it takes an exceptionally devious and extraordinary leader. The way I see it, as someone who studies history, and past high school psychology with an A, there are two common archetypes I often see in people like this. Perhaps the most infamous archetype encompasses somebody with harmful levels of dastardly ambition, an intrinsic need to control others and to be held in high standing, in essence, a narcissistic sociopath. First, they manipulate people with their high levels of charisma to get their foot in the door, so to speak. They typically are cool-headed and able to deal with problems in ways many ordinary people can't. Once they have ample control and leverage over you, their true nature slowly becomes more and more apparent. They'll do terrible things and use their bond with you, their influence over your peers, or simple coercion in order to get away with it. These are mentally ill, inherently unstable people, and as their obligations and power grow, these things seem to become more more apparent. They become delusional, unable to analyze reality, and ultimately dangerous to themselves and everyone around them. They take exceedingly drastic measures to solve problems that don't really exist. Eventually, these actions will result in their ultimate downfall. Now, not all people or characters in this general category will meet or be limited to all of these criteria, nor will these actions and faults be amplified the same. These are just some recurring associated traits I've noticed. People like Adolf Hitler, Napoleon Bonaparte, and Jim Jones I think fit into this general category. While these people no doubt have their differences, they all share some very important similarities. They were self-made men, they were charismatic, they preyed on others' fears, they had bold, drastic solutions for problems, and they all achieved incredible power and adoration from others. The second archetype I think can overlap with or evolve into the former, but I think derives from a different source. This is what Milton Friedman termed the honest reformer.
Heaven preserve us from the sincere reformer who knows what's good for you and by heaven is going to make you do it whether you like it or not.
These people see the world they live in as being imperfect and see themselves and their alternative philosophies as the only possible way in which this can be corrected. They're dogmatic and use a variety of tactics to promote their own ideas while also shutting down those of others. They believe that the ends justify the means and as a result see nothing unjust in ruining the lives of their competition. The types of people I associate with this range from Che Guevara and Mao Zedong to the illiberal progressive activists on modern college campuses. Now, to reiterate, I don't see this archetype as being necessarily separate from the previously discussed one. In fact, it may be better to simply qualify all of these on scales measuring their degree of authoritarianism and altruism alongside perceived levels of psycho and sociopathy or general prevalence of mental illness. But that sounds like hard work, so I'll leave it to the PhDs. The point I'm trying to make is that all of these people have common traits and are ingrained in the populace of society. At the end of the day, despite the differing motivations between these two general categories of people, they all end up in the same place, as heartless, authoritarian leaders. In writing, you can base countless characters around these general traits and archetypes, and in Into the Wild, Erin Hunter made two. One I previously discussed was Tigerclaw, but the second is the more obvious antagonist in the book. Brokenstar, leader of ShadowClan. Sometime before the start of the novel, ShadowClan was an unexceptional faction that commanded far less respect from its rivals. Enter Brokentail, an ambitious young warrior who rises to a high status in his clan. He then orchestrates the death of the supreme leader, Raggedstar, an event which he then uses to seize power and install his radical new policies that he promises will bring his nation to glory. Now there's a very obvious parallel to Nazi Germany in this, but there's also a very subtle yet very important parallel to ThunderClan in this. How does this relate to ThunderClan, you might ask? Well, let's compare the notes. ThunderClan is an unexceptional faction that commands less respect from its rivals. Enter Tigerclaw, an ambitious young warrior who rises to a high status in his clan. He then orchestrates the death of the second in command to the supreme leader, Redtail, an event which he then uses to seize power and attempt to install his radical new policies that he promises will bring his nation to glory. See? They're almost identical. Had Tigerclaw succeeded, ThunderClan would have gone down the very same path as ShadowClan. The idea that the hero's faction in this story is nearly identical to the antagonists is not only a fascinating revelation and a great way to easily explain concepts like radicalization or fascism to someone, but it also adds weight to the main character's narrative arc. Fire alone can save our clan. It was Firepaw's actions that ultimately thwart Brokenstar at the end of Into the Wild, and later Tigerclaw in his scheme for control of ThunderClan. Firepaw does what no other cat in ShadowClan or ThunderClan could. He preserved his clan from the allure of evil. Firepaw is going to become a phenomenon in later books. In the first one, he is ultimately established as having a unique perspective and initiative in dealing with the darkest, strongest forces in his world. Just as the first chapter established Firepaw as a believable hero for the story, this first book establishes him as a believable legend for the entire series. ShadowClan and Brokenstar's characterization not only made them an interesting and memorable band of antagonists, but they also resonated immaculately with the focal point of the entire series. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Sorry it took a few months longer than I first anticipated to get out. I had some technical difficulties with my microphone, and I also had some other videos I wanted to work on in the meantime. Plus I had college and life to deal with. But don't worry, I plan on making plenty more Warrior Cats and just general videos in the future, hopefully more frequently. One thing that you, the viewer, can consider doing in order to help my video career along is consider becoming a patron. You can go to patreon.com, go to my profile page, Lizard Wizard, and consider donating $1 a video or $1 billion a video, whatever you think my content's worth. This is by no means mandatory and is completely optional. I'll probably make a video in the future explaining exactly how this is going to work, but in the meantime, all you have to know is if you donate, I can make more videos and maybe better ones too. I'm kind of short on money because of college, so I haven't been able to replace this microphone that's been giving me some issues lately. I don't know if you can tell in the video, but I have to use only one channel and then make it a whole mono setting with the video and everything, and I don't think it's really affecting the quality too much at the moment, but it could in the future. So having a steady income from YouTube could basically pay for this channel to continue going at a high rate. So if you have the money and the desire, you may consider throwing $1 or $2 my way so I can keep these videos coming in a better frequency. And if not, no problem. I'm going to continue making videos just as much and hopefully better than ever. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.